And we're live. Buck, how are you doing?
I'm good, Caleb.
So I have been listening to your podcast for let's see. I started listening when you did that post-libertarian live stream. So
Oh yeah,
Andrew, Pete, who else was there?
we had Pete.
Matt.
Oh, Matt. Yeah, Matt. Yeah,
All the good people.
yeah. There were some good people. That got a lot of views and a lot of comments. I
Yeah,
mean, not just on the actual post, but it got a lot of kerfuffle. We'll say.
yeah. I don't know. Do you consider yourself a post-libertarian, or what kind of term do you use to kind of describe where you're at now?
Honestly, I'm not totally sure what that is um, anymore. I think it's more so used today as a pejorative with people that I suppose are referencing Matt. I don't actually know who they're referencing. We were talking about that the other day. I think they mean some version of Matt, Andrew, Pete, Jason Stapleton, myself, maybe now Mark Claire. He had a big out, so to speak.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, Adam Patrick, I suppose. I don't use that term really. If someone said, "What are you politically?" I wouldn't say post-libertarian. I don't really love labels as much as I used to, but I suppose to make things simple, I would say paleo-libertarian.
That's kind of the term I've started using. Paleo-libertarian or Praxian. Kind of
Yeah,
just kind of
Praxian
set on those terms.
Praxian is fine, but that's such a niche in an
Yeah.
already niche political
Like
movement. So if I
and
talk to
and
someone at
cap
work,
is already knits. It's like we're
yeah,
going.
if I talk to someone at work and they said, "Well, what are you politically?" If I said Praxian, they'd libertarian was weird enough; they wouldn't know
Yeah,
what the hell I was talking about.
yeah. No, paleo is a good term. I think
Yes,
it gets the point across. Libertarian, but more right wing than the
yes,
typical not left, not right kind of people.
yes.
So you're running for mayor, is that correct?
Not yet.
Not yet. You're like the Dave Smith. I talk about it, but I'm not going to do it.
Well, uh, the first step might be city councilman. We'll have to
Mm.
see. There's the lady that represents me ran unopposed last
Oh.
time. I find that interesting and intriguing. Another thing, if I do run, it will be with the intent to win.
Mm.
Um, you mentioned Dave Smith doing his thing. That's a whole different thing on its own.
Yeah.
But there's no intention to win there. And I would never run a campaign unless I thought I could win.
Yeah, I agree with that sentiment. Yeah. When it comes to the whole federal level, I know a lot of people in kind of all paleo space don't like the Dave Smith one. I don't care about the federal level, and so if he thinks he can, make 10, 15 more libertarians for Twitter, I mean, as long as it doesn't inhibit my ability to work in the local level, I could care less what he does on the federal level. He's not going to make any changes besides, maybe getting some attention drawn. And so
Yeah.
I'm indifferent. So let's talk about your political history. Libertarian, obviously. I see the Ross Bard cert. How did you come to the ideas of liberty? Like, I don't know your liberty origin story.
Oh, okay. Well, it was a lot longer time ago than a lot of people. It was way before the 2008 Ron Paul stuff. Let me take a sip. I stumbled onto a book. It was a mix of things, a cocktail, as Mark Claire once called it, between a cocktail of Harry Brown and Ron Paul and Alex Jones. And I say that because I lived in Austin, Texas, I moved there in '98, and we had a FM talk radio station, and Alex Jones was on it. Also, he was on. He so far back then he was on public access here in. I was in Austin. We're not there now, but he was in public access. So I knew who he was. I started listening to him in the afternoons. He would have Ron Paul on his radio show. Somehow they talked about libertarianism and Harry Brown. And so I bought a Harry Brown book. And once I read that, I couldn't unsee or unthink any of the things I started thinking. And so that's when I jumped into the liberty movement. And I jumped into the Libertarian Party. I did all of that stuff. I went to delegate things and local meetings in Austin, Texas. I supported Michael Badnarik in 2004. I didn't want to, but I supported Bob Barr in 2008. Back then I was like, for the libertarians, we're not supposed to have to hold our nose when we vote for the person we really want to vote for. Yep, we started doing that, and then it continued with that cycle every election since then.
I'm gonna be honest. I've heard the name Harry Brown. I don't know who that is.
He ran for president of representing the Libertarian Party. He ran for president of the United States in 2000, I believe, also in '96. And he was a very, very polished speaker, very bright man. He was very, very good. And he was a good writer, too. And when he wrote his book, The Great Libertarian Offer, it basically went subject by subject and gave the libertarian position, the real libertarian position, not some kind of watered down mess that they would give you today. And I was like, damn, this is, like we all think when we read it, this makes so much sense. This is so logical. And so, he's passed away since. And that's why. And I would say I was what I would call a blue-pilled libertarian up until about 2016, 17, somewhere I started to kind of realize what was really going on. Having said that, I was also big into the conspiracy stuff because of Alex Jones, probably through 06, 07, 08, and some of that I started losing interest in some of that too.
I never really did the whole conspiracy theory thing. Like, I never went deep on it. Like, I watched Alex Jones maybe 2 months, and I was like, I don't have the energy for this.
Yeah,
I could never get into the conspiracy
I
theories.
grew up with him, so to speak. I mean, I was 21 when I heard him, and so it went from, and he was a lot more tame back then. He still went on some rants, and so I kind of just got into politics because hearing him. So it's like I developed a taste for him. Now he definitely does. He pumps himself up purposely like a wrestling character to get attention and stuff like that. But I still find it amusing.
Yeah, he's definitely. Whenever he goes on Rogan, I'm listening. Like his Tim Dillon episode with Rogan, I was dying of laughter the whole time.
Yep. Yeah, Rogan's one of those guys. The show's so damn long. I have to see the guest and go, okay, this one I'll listen to. And Malice, Dave Smith, and Alex, of course. If Alex is on there, I'm listening.
That's about the only ones I listen to at this point. If it's if Ben Shapiro goes on, I listen to kind of hear what the BoomerCon stuff is. I try to stay in the know with the right wing circles, but trying to watch anyone Daily Wire anymore is just, it's so hard. I don't know if you saw or not, but they did a live show and someone asked them about succession, and they had a 15-minute debate on succession, and it was the cringiest thing I've ever seen in my life.
No, I didn't see that. Let me guess.
Did
he say that it has some ties to slavery and stuff like that?
Yes.
Of course. Okay.
Brought up slavery, brought up nuclear missiles. What are we going to do with them? What are we going to do with the federal government? And Matt Walsh it's sad, but Matt Walsh is a reasonable one.
Yeah, sure.
And he's just like, we hate them and they hate us. Why we got to live together anymore? And it's like, how is he being reasonable here? It was so weird.
Yeah.
So let's kind of talk about localism a little bit here, because you are a big fan of Hopper. I've heard you talk about Hopper's What Must Be Done. I watched that for the first time recently, and really, it's really good.
Yeah.
So how did you find out about Hopper? Because he's kind of one of those libertarian figures that once you get really into it, you find out who he is, and you either hate him or love him. So how did you find out about Hopper?
I don't remember specifically, but I was already a fan of the Mises Institute, so I would imagine it was somehow through them, maybe through Lou or Jeff, or maybe Tom Woods talked about it on his show, something like that. But yeah, he's amazing, Hopper. Yeah. So understated, like he says, he reminds me in a way of Lou Rockwell in that he has this kind of chill, quiet way of stating like the coolest radical ideas that a lot of people aren't familiar with at first, and kind of, they want to tread lightly before getting into some of these topics, but they're so fascinating to me.
Oh yeah. Hopper, for me, the first time I ever heard Hopper was when I heard the how to say it, if you can reduce the problem by one if you just simply kill yourself on it. That was my first time hearing Hopper, and I'm like, I want to hear more of this guy. He's hilarious. And I actually read his books. I'm like, oh, this guy, he's not this funny.
Yeah. Did you read his last one? I think was called. It's over there somewhere. Getting Libertarianism Right. It's very small. It's almost a pamphlet of sorts.
That is the only Hopper book I own that I haven't read yet. I own every Hopper book, and I've read all but like 2 of them now.
Nice.
And that's the one I'm trying to. I have a guest for it, and I have had the cancel and reschedule 3 times now.
Who's the guy?
Based Hoppian on Twitter. He's
okay.
I try to do the book club episodes with like other Twitter people. To go for the book club was like was it Jeff Dice has this whole human accent podcast where he gets big name people for the books. I want to do the same thing but for Twitter people.
Okay.
Give people that chance to kind of get used to talking on a podcast, and then I don't have to worry about trying to get a big name. So it's fun though.
I saw you reaching out to Stefan Kinsella.
Yes, he came on a while ago to do a Explain to Me Like I'm 5. I do a series of Explain to Me Like I'm 5.
Yes.
He did what was it? Intellectual Property.
Yeah.
He's coming on again next Friday. In 7 days from today, he's coming on to do Argumentation Ethics.
Oh, that's one of my favorite ones too.
Yeah, I know enough about it just to like get my family to run around when they ask questions. So I'm actually looking forward to getting a deep dive into that one.
That's a Hoppian thing. You know that though.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Most of my stuff comes like I'm very big into natural law. I'm Catholic, and so I love the natural law stuff. I love ethics and liberty, but the Hopper stuff is so much more easily digestible and compelling.
Yeah,
I don't have to make any pleas to anything else. Just state a fact and go from there.
Yep.
Yeah, excuse me.
Is that pre-workout?
It's the C4 brain one.
Oh so, yeah,
I really like it.
Me too.
Honestly, I need to stop drinking so much caffeine. Like I got my working like 6 to 6 lately, so I'm drinking like 2 Red Bulls and a pre-workout at night. It's just
woo.
Yeah, I don't sleep much anymore.
Yeah, guess not.
So let's talk about Florida and Texas.
Yeah.
Are you born and raised Texas, or did you move to Texas?
I'm born and raised Texas. I lived in California when I was young for a bit, but I was born in an area called Aldine outside of Houston. Then went to California, then back to Texas, and then I've lived in and around Texas since I was a teenager, basically.
Nice. Yeah, people from Texas and Florida, I think, we view politics differently, especially libertarians from us. Like, you talk to people from like Mises Caucus or from even paleos in other states, they don't. How to put this? They don't think the state can do good. They had this very view of the state that always is going to be evil. And I think because we live in Florida and Texas, we kind of saw, hey, states can do good sometimes. Like Ron DeSantis did a lot of good this last year.
Even you're in Texas, right?
Florida.
Oh, you're in Florida. Okay. Even our guy, Abbott, has done a few things good lately, surprisingly. It took a while. You know what it took is Don Huffines pushing him, challenging him from the right is what it's taken.
Yeah. I'm hoping someone does that. Like Ron DeSantis is almost perfect. I hope we get like someone just a little bit better just to make him perfect,
Just to challenge him and push him in that last little.
I want Stowe to do it, but I know he won't. But I want Stowe to do it. I want him to run for governor.
So?
Yeah, if Stowe could do anything and everything, that'd be my standard. Like Stowe is my standard for every partisan.
I bet you'll see Tho running for something at some point.
I hope.
Yeah.
I love Stowe. I found him at a podcast. I'm trying to get him on again. Anytime I can talk to him, I saw him down in a Tom Woods event. I got a photo. I love the guy.
How was that event?
Oh, amazing! It was my first Liberty event, and I'm never missing one again. I don't know if I got to fly 5 states away, I'm going to them. Like these are too much fun to miss. Good.
Yeah, and that's probably, you say that's your first. It might spoil you. They're not all that crazy and big, but yeah.
My first time doing a dine and dash was at a Liberty event. Well, I was day drunk because I didn't plan to be. I got 2 drinks, and the second one, like it was ice cream, and I'm like, oh cool, it's like an ice cream with like some booze in it. I'll get that, and I ordered it. And he poured in like 3 shots of rum, 2 shots of bourbon, and just kept pouring in drinks. And so I had it, and I'm drinking that, eating my burger. My friend's like, hey, the event starts soon, and so I just got up and left.
Oh shit! Without paying for the burger.
Without paying for the burger or anything, just got up and left. I went down to the front desk because they were closed later. I'm like, hey, I didn't pay for my food. Can you all send me the receipt? And they said no.
They said just don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. So I don't have to pay for, but I still feel bad because it was a really good burger and I wanted to pay for it.
The irony of not paying for a service to go run quickly to a libertarian thing. I mean, you didn't realize that's what you were doing, but it's funny.
But that's why I find it funny as well. I'm saying for the event, as everyone's like laughing at this magician. I'm like, I didn't pay for my food.
Yeah. The guy that was cutting Tom Woods in half.
Yes. Oh, it was honestly the heckler came up to heckle Michael Malice was the greatest thing. Malice handled it like a pro. I never seen anyone handle it. I don't know. I do know that after the event, Tom Woods found a guy and laid the fuck into him.
He did.
Yeah, apparently he just lost his cool and was just yelling at the guy for like 10 minutes.
Wow. All right.
Can you imagine being that guy? You wake up hungover as hell the next day, and all you see on Twitter is footage of you running at Michael Malice.
And then Tom Woods, chewed you out. Was he there for that event?
Yes.
What a weirdo. Okay.
Yeah, well, Michael Malice had a mask on. He was not happy about it.
Right. Well, Michael Malice is a troll.
Yeah, he brought out a puppet of Tom Woods. What do you expect?
Right.
So back to the question: why do you think people from Florida and Texas view politics differently? Like, what is the going? Because even before COVID stuff happened, it kind of seemed like they had a different vibe towards things.
I can't answer for Florida, but I can answer for Texas. There's a streak. So here, I can do it in different levels. I think in America, we have this rebellious streak in us in general. I say us, half of us don't, obviously, but generally compared to, say, England, we have a rebellious streak. And I've got musician friends in Europe, and I've just noticed it over my years of being friends with them. Even the ones that agree with me politically, there's just more of a subservient nature to Europeans when they discuss government and how they live under and view government. And for instance, speaking of Harry Brown, I had a book once when I was on I'm a musician. I was on tour in Europe with a European band, and I had Harry Brown's book, Why Government Doesn't Work. And one of the guys saw it, and he could not even fathom why there would be a book like that. Why government doesn't work? What do you mean? What, you don't like government? Like it was just foreign, literally and figuratively. And so in America, we have that. Well, then you could take it back down to a more local level. And in Texas, compared to the other states in this union, we have even more of that. Maybe it's because we're our own country at one time. I don't know if the kind of like this heritage here in Texas just builds up over time and it's just part of our culture. We have a much more we do what we want attitude than a lot of the other states. In Austin, it's not like that as much because it's a real progressive city. But even there is some of that spirit. And like, for instance, when my wife moved here from California, she said, I've never seen a state more proud of itself than this state. Like the flags are more ubiquitous than the American flag here. And so I think there's just that kind of spirit of independence here in Texas that a lot of other states don't have. And Tho points this out, and I think he's right. A lot of our politicians as of late in this state kind of rest on the laurels of that reputation without necessarily living that reputation. I certainly think guys like Don Huffines represent it much more than Greg Abbott does. But like we mentioned, Don Huffines is pushing Greg Abbott to the right, so he's starting to represent that a little bit. When you talk about states pushing back against Biden's COVID mandate, his vaccine mandates, which he hasn't signed yet, but the spirit of that mandate, it's Florida and Texas, and I think maybe South Dakota, and there's some other ones that said they're going to do it, but Florida and Texas are basically first to say absolutely not. And now Greg Abbott's saying not only will businesses not mandate this in our state, it's against the law for them to, and it's against the law for them to require customers or any entity in this state cannot mandate a vaccine, whether it's an employee or a customer. It's amazing.
Yeah, that law caused a lot of controversy on Twitter.
Yeah, if for anyone who's left wing, you will not like that law.
Yeah. I got what's his name? Clint from Liberty Lockdown. He's coming on Friday to kind of talk about the whole fascism, government, libertarian issue. So that's gonna be a lot of fun. My theory on why Florida is different is the stereotype of the crazy Florida man who gives no fucks.
Yeah,
And
sure.
everyone in Florida loves that stereotype and loves to play into it.
Yeah, that's
a
good point.
What was it? I had a joke. My joke for like half of COVID. My joke was the reason we never have a hardcore mask mandate is because Ron DeSantis like you can't do cocaine in a mask. Right. And then at a football game, he said you can't drink a beer in a mask, and it's like okay,
same spirit. Yeah. Same spirit. Florida guy energy.
Yeah, it's great. I live in the most I live in Polk County. That's the most Florida part of Florida. Like it's Central Florida. It's the swamp. It is known as the Florida part of Florida. We had no mask mandates, no nothing. Like in Bartow, we had a lockdown for maybe a week. That was the longest lockdown we had. There's nothing else. We just we do not care.
That's cool. That's good then. It's just it's humid, I bet.
Yeah, it's not great. If Florida had better temperature, it'd be the utopia. It'd be the best place on the planet.
Well, all the people in California would move there. You know, that's why California is so crowded, because temperature and climate wise, why wouldn't you want to be there? It's all the other shit that comes with it.
Yeah. Let's talk about that actually for a moment. Keeping people out of your state, because you got a lot of people moving to your state.
I know.
I'm sure that's like not a lot of people moving to Florida. Like, if you notice that, like Florida seems to be better by most metrics, and no offense to Texas, it seems like on COVID stuff seems a bit better because of DeSantis. Yeah. But more people are moving to Texas. Why do you think that is? I can't seem to figure out why people are choosing people who leave California and New York are flocking to Texas and not Florida. I can't.
Why is that? I don't know. One theory off the top of my head, I haven't thought about that, why they would come here, not Florida, but I think the city of Austin attracts them, and there's some sense of security that their progressive ways can still be intact by moving to such a redneck, ignorant state like ours, but I can be in Austin, so it's okay. There might be some of that there. But now Austin's a complete shithole because of those people. I don't know. That's a good question. I thought they were also moving. I thought it was like New York down to Florida, California over to Texas.
Yeah, Florida is not getting as by numbers. Florida's not getting anywhere near as many people.
Wow.
Like you don't see many people moving to Florida, and if they are, they're moving to Miami. And Miami's like the most left wing part of Florida, and Miami's nothing like regular left wing cities.
Okay.
Miami's its own thing. I can't figure it out.
It's got a big Latin culture to it, doesn't it? The feel there.
Yeah. It honestly feels like a different country when you walk around. Just like the way people carry themselves and walk around, it's so foreign to what I'm used to. And even in Florida, there's already more different other places. No, if like Miami's just weird. I've only been there a few times because I don't like it. I really don't like the city. Do
you get a vibe there in Florida, just generally, and probably not specifically where you're at, but broadly, that there's a rising movement against DeSantis, or are they embracing him and they love him?
They hate Nikki Fried. That's about the standard.
Okay.
The love of DeSantis is like gratitude. I don't know if it's like for support. Okay. And it's weird because like people in Florida, no one in Florida wants him to run for president. Like I know very few people who actually want him to leave. No one wants him to leave.
Yes, I've heard that.
And so a lot of people are supporting him on the metric that he'd better not leave. And so it's like we don't want to celebrate him too much because he's like, yeah, I am the shit. I want for president. We don't want that. So we're trying to figure out a way to keep him from getting too high on his own horse. It's weird energy around DeSantis in Florida. Because how the people in Florida are boomers who focus all about politics. Yeah. And there's half of people who do cocaine and don't care. Yeah. Like those are the two kinds of people in Florida. Either you do cocaine and you don't care, or you care way too much.
Yeah, sure.
Got a question for Buck, for my favorite Texan, Rob. I have a question for Buck, if I may. Does it seem the average Democrat in Texas is more conservative than the average Republican in most other states?
No, not from my personal experience. And keep in mind, I was in Austin, Texas, so the average Democrat there is intolerably horrible. And some of my wife's family are Republicans that now live in Texas, but they were from California and then Washington, and they're red pilled as shit now. They're hardcore. There are a lot of the stuff they say sounds like stuff we would say. And so, no, my own experience is the Republicans that were in California, a lot of them have left, but compared to the Democrats in Austin, my goodness, the Democrats in Austin are about as horrible as you can get. I mean, there's an actual socialist on the city council.
Maybe Texas should just succeed from Austin. Maybe that has to be the.
I don't know how that's going to work. There's a guy running for mayor in Austin a few years back that wanted to. He was being serious, I think, build a wall around Austin and make Uber pay for it. If we could do that and then not let them leave it, I wish we could do something like that. I just don't want them moving to Lockhart, Texas, where I'm at now.
Yeah. Yeah. No, as people the Democrats in Florida are weird, because a lot of the Democrats that I know, the left-wing people I know are in Florida, unless you go to the college and talk to like the socially progressive feminist left people, most of the how to put this, I don't consider those people adults. So the adult Democrats are not very socialist Democrat, but the young people are so they're just fucking gone.
Yes.
I had a friend of mine. He's going to one of those like kind of a liberal arts college in the area, and he's like, "How do you?" Because he knows I'm into like reading Thomas DiLorenzo and a lot of books on socialism. He's like, "How do you like talk to a socialist about things in their mind?" I'm like, "You don't."
No, you don't. I mean, that's like talking to a Southern Baptist and saying, "Why don't you convert to, Scientology or something like that?" You're not going to.
Yeah, I said it's like the Borg in Star Trek. They've joined the collective. You can't get them back.
Yeah. Yep.
It's like, and it's the attitude they have here, specifically those kind of college types. They don't want to argue. They want to make fun of you and mock you, and then let the professor deal with you because they can't argue with themselves.
Right. Yeah.
And so I've just told him just to silence his professor. He has a professor who's like a Civil War history buff.
Oh, okay.
He mentioned my friend's reading The Real Lincoln by Thomas DiLorenzo.
Yeah.
And the professor was like, "Yeah, I don't like DiLorenzo. He takes too much of a negative view on Lincoln." I'm like, "Oh, he knows who he is? You can destroy him now."
Yeah.
He knows who DiLorenzo is, and now you have the ammunition to go at him. Do it.
Yes.
Humiliate him in front of his class.
There's an old book. I'd go grab it. But yeah, it's called "The South Was Right" by the Kennedy brothers. And when I took a few years of college. I took a history course, and I actually liked. I don't know if you knew this. I used to be obsessed with Southern history, and so I took this class thinking this guy is not going to be very good on this, and he actually was. He was pretty fair, I would say, and I loved his class. And at the end of the class, I liked him so much, I got him the book, The South Was Right. I said, "Just thought you'd be interested in this." It's like even in college, I was already into passing out this propaganda. It's funny.
Nice. No, that is one of the great things about living in the South is the Confederate. Like my problem with the Confederate heritage is most people you talk to like the Confederate don't like it for the right reasons.
Yes, I know. I've run into that.
You're like, I have a friend who like waved the Confederate flag, and I'm like, "Yeah, success." And he's like, "No, we got to be a union." I'm like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
What are you doing?
And that's what was sad about that Unite the Right thing in Charlottesville. Some of the people there, like when Trump said there were some very fine people or whatever that thing was, there were some good people there that were actually into Civil War history and were going to protest the removing of statues. And then you got these other idiots chanting the stuff with the tiki torches, like bad mix. That's not who you want to be hanging with. And it puts the eye of Sauron right on you as they talk.
One of the things I hate the most, honestly, is that I love Civil War history. I love the South. I love the Confederacy. Like I'm all the way in artist camp. Like I am doing a podcast with my friend from I have a friend from Ireland, and he wants to know all about the Civil War and succession. So I'm gonna do a whole explain the fact like he's 5, Civil War, Lincoln, everything. It's gonna be a whole red pill on Civil War.
Okay.
Because all he knows is what he learned in his 2nd grade class in like Italy.
Yeah.
So he doesn't know those jack shit.
It might be better than what people learn in their 2nd grade class in America. Who knows? Although
honestly, I'm curious to find that out.
Yeah. Yeah, there's been interesting secession movements over there lately too. Not in Ireland, but in Italy.
Oh, there's an Irish succession party, and they want to succeed from Britain and join the EU, and it's like,
Oh yeah, of course. I
that's
knew once Brexit happened, you'd get like left wing secessionary movements on the that kind of thing. I knew that was going to happen. I wish that would happen here.
Yeah. There's one thing I'm trying to figure out. Like, there's so many people who are right wing who aren't really right wing. They claim to be right wing, and then they go on talking about union nationalism and all the same policies of the left, but their own bent. Like, what's his name? Solab Amari, one of these TradCon people, tweeted out about he's not against vaccine mandates in principle. He's just against the left doing it. And it's like they don't have any principal reason to be against the left. Michael Noah says the same thing. Like, these people claim to be traditional conservatives, and they're not actually against anything the left does. They just don't like the fact that it's not their indoctrination, it's not their power, and they're just salty about not being in charge.
Yeah, that's disturbing. I've not seen as much of that.
Yeah, I followed a lot of the TradCons and the nationalists more than I followed the other conservatives I should be following.
Okay.
You had I listened. I want to talk to you. I listened to your podcast with Pedro Gonzalez.
Yeah, he's awesome.
He is awesome. I had written him off because he had that $15 minimum wage article.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I wrote him off completely. And I regret doing that. I had him blocked on Twitter and everything.
Wow.
Yeah, I did not like him. I was like, this guy is just a socialist hiding under the right-wing name, not listen to the podcast. I'm like, okay, no, he actually is interesting. And I'm probably gonna subscribe to the Chronicle.
You should. You should. You're I can tell you're like on a journey here and you're learning all these new things. Chronicles magazine I can't recommend highly enough. And Paul Gottfried, are you familiar with him?
A little bit. I listened to him on Tom Woods a few times.
Yes, he's fabulous, and his books are also very, very good. He's got a new one, I suppose, about fascism. He's basically he runs that magazine now, and Pedro Gonzalez is assistant editor. But I highly recommend Chronicles magazine.
I'm starting to get things delivered. Like I'm getting the Austrian economics journal delivered. I'm starting to have like magazines delivered, and it's fun to get one. You're like,
I know
it's fun just to sit down and read a magazine. It's such a like my generation never did it, but it's still fun.
How old are you?
23.
Oh my goodness! Wow. Okay. Yeah. So you're used to like reading stuff on this kind of thing.
Pretty much. Yeah. I try to avoid reading on my phone because if I'm on my phone, I'll get a Twitter notification and I'll just stop reading immediately.
Yeah.
So I try to avoid the Kindle reading, but there's so many Mises books that are free on Mises Institute that it's like I'm not gonna spend. I mean, I'm buying the bookstore because I want for myself, but like,
yeah,
I need to stop buying books and read them online.
Well, having a magazine or a book to actually hold and sit and read peacefully without electronic lights in your eyes, to me is nice. Have a little bit of bourbon, chill out in a chair and read. It's pretty relaxing.
Yeah, I like to. I try to on Friday nights, put my record player on and read a book. Take an hour, just listen to Frank Sinatra, read a book.
That is exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, exactly.
You mentioned music earlier. You're a musician. What kind of music do you play and listen to?
I play drums as far as instruments go. I don't play too much these days, but I do still sometimes. I would say if I get a gig, for the most part, it's traditional country music, like 60s, 50s, 60s style country. Some
the good stuff.
Yeah. And stuff I listen to is kind of spans. I'm not one of those people that says I listen to everything, because I certainly don't. But I do listen to anywhere from jazz to hardcore punk rock to old reggae, ska music, and old country music, stuff like that. Most of the stuff I listen to is like an organic, original version of the kind of music. I don't like a lot of new stuff in any form of music.
Yeah. I was listening. I was talking with my coworker the other day, and I'm playing some country music. He's like, "This country's terrible." I'm like, "Name a country singer." He's like, "Luke Bryan." He's just naming up all these new guys, and I'm like,
"Yeah,
no,
that is terrible." Yes.
Yeah. Like this is Allman Brothers Band, Waylon Jennings. We're gonna listen to the good stuff.
Yes. Yeah. That
he's converted. He listens to what's it called? Company 16 Tons. 16 Tons all the time now. Yeah, that's
is it you talking about the song? Yeah, of course. Tennessee 24. That's a great one.
His voice, it's such a good voice.
It is,
One
and
of
that's
those.
a bass line too. It's just good stuff.
So I said the other day, the South makes the best music, and people on my Facebook were like, "Oh, the South? You mean like Luke? Like again, Luke Bryan comes up. Like, why does he keep coming up? I'm talking about like Freebird. I'm talking about like Leonard Skinner, and you're talking about Luke Bryan. This is not the same. We are not the same."
Elvis Presley, all the old rockabilly stuff out of Memphis, all the blues stuff out of the South, all of that stuff.
I got an Elvis record, and what's Hunk Burnin' Love is that song. It comes on, it's just I love Elvis.
Yes, that was a good
Old
one.
music is so much better. Like all this new music, like there's a few new songs that are funny for a meme, and that's about it.
Yeah, I know. And often I'll see the meme and I have to ask my wife, like, what's this referencing? Oh, babe, it's a song you've not heard.
Like honestly, if it's not Kanye, that's like the only new guy I listen to, and that's only because his new Christian albums are really they're weird, but they're very. It's like a cultural event. You know, if you're not listening to new Kanye or new Drake, you're missing out on the culture. So I listen to new stuff like that. Just to, so my friends bring it up, I know what's going on.
There's hip hop stuff too, I suppose, that I like that's not particularly old. My theme song for my show, Jedi Mind Tricks, Army of the Pharaohs, Vinny Pazienza, stuff like that. But it's still an extreme niche within a wider set, you know.
Yeah. Let's go back earlier. We were talking about you mentioned Republicans who are like red pilled earlier.
Yeah, a lot of them now.
Yeah. I was trying to explain this to people. Like the conservatives you deal with on Twitter who read Edmund Burke are not the conservatives who listen to Rush Limbaugh.
Right.
You know, these are not just like
there's if you're going to say reading Edmund Burke, I mean, that's definitely a nice set of conservatives, but there are some that were listening to Rush that I still would say are much more red pilled than certainly their Democratic opponents. You know,
yes.
my parents are, for the most part, halfway. They're halfway red pilled, and not because of my show by any means. Because you know who's doing it a lot besides Donald Trump doing it is Tucker Carlson. So he's helping a lot of people of that generation.
Yeah, Tucker, when he had on Curtis Yarvin, I had to reassess where I placed Tucker. Like
crazy.
I had placed Tucker on like this Trump camp, and I never really paid attention to him. And then I'm like, oh, he's anti-war a little bit. He had Curtis Yarvin on. Okay, maybe he's not. I don't know. I wrote anyone on Fox News goes into Sean Hannity BoomerCon camp. And I had to realize Tucker's not in that camp.
He's not, and it's funny because I watch him every night. And we'll watch the first minute or two of Hannity, and it's just so different. It's a cartoon, you know. It's just it's just silly, and compared to the stuff you're getting from Tucker Carlson, it's such a funny transition into Sean Hannity and his boomer fucking jokes, and he's just cheesy.
First book that wasn't fictional that I got was Sean Hannity's "Deliver Us from Evil."
How was that? I've never read one of his books.
I couldn't get through it. I was like 8, but it's a signed copy.
You were 8. My God, you got in early.
Like 8. I was like, what was I? I was at a campground, and it was one of those leave a book, take a book things.
Oh,
and okay. I just grabbed it. When I was young, I watched Fox News with my grandpa, Bill O'Reilly, Glenn Beck, and Hannity.
Oh, okay.
That was kind of I'd never really been on the left. Always been that kind of like
good.
Most left wing I'd gone was the TradCon stuff for like a month and a half.
Yeah. Hannity's book's probably written at the level of an 8-year-old.
Well, it's funny. I have it on myself. I have it right next to this is all about Afghanistan. I have it right next to Scott Hohen's book on Afghanistan.
Oh, that's a good one.
I need to get Scott to sign that book so I could have I have Hannity and Scott signed copies right next to each other.
You should tell him that's why you want him to sign it too. It'd be funny and show him a picture like, look who I've got right next to each other. My 2 heroes.
He was at Tom Woods, and if I knew he was going to beat it, I would have bought it.
Sure. Yeah.
He was a surprise guest, and I didn't know he was going to beat it.
I
walked out.
saw him the week before here at the event here in Lockhart for Renegade U, and he didn't say a word about being there. I didn't know he was going to be there.
How was Renegade U? Because Thaddeus Russell is one of the only people who I guess is somewhat on the left I actually listen to.
Thad is that's funny you say that. I'm going to tell him you said that. He's not on the left, although he definitely comes from it, and he speaks their language, and that's why he's so
Yes.
good at speaking out against them. He hates them. I mean, he hates the left more than he's one of those guys that he doesn't want to get pigeonholed, so he won't say I'm this or I'm that, and he does that on purpose. And it's business decisions that, and he wants me to be that way and not, don't pigeonhole yourself. You're going to put a glass ceiling over you. But he does come from that segment of society, and boy, can he still speak their language. And he's one of those people that's good. If you have someone who's a friend who leans left, if it's someone who's all the way bought in, there, like you said, you can't change them. But
they're gone.
if there's someone who's just kind of in their default settings of life, walking around looking at CNN, thinking it's true, that is very good at speaking to them because he can speak their language, and he doesn't come across as a macho right-wing guy. And I find that valuable to an extent.
Yeah, his book, was it When They Get History of the United States, is one of my favorite history books.
Yep,
it's
me too.
So good.
Yep. I like people that they red pill you in a way that you learn things that were almost opposite of what you thought they really were. And so that book does that.
That was The Real Lincoln by Thomas De Lorenzo. That for me, that book red pilled me on history. I was like, wait, maybe I read that. I'm like, wait, history could lie to me. I had to reassess everything.
The victors go the spoils. Yeah.
I want to get Sal on the podcast because his whole postmodernism thing is one of the most interesting. Like, a lot of my friends hate postmodernism. Yes. I'm like, I think when it comes to science, postmodernism is like the best thing ever.
It's very good. Yes, I do too. I've had deep conversations with him here at my house. They raise some very good points, especially when it comes to science. That's exactly right. You should get your thing. Explain postmodern to me like I'm 5.
I would tweet at him tonight about that because that would be great. Because all my friends are like, a lot of my friends who go to college are doing like English degrees, and so all I know about postmodernism is like the literary side of it when it comes to like literary analysis.
Yes,
and it's not the greatest because it's so stuck in reading through leftist hierarchies.
Of course,
when it comes to reading literature, but when it comes to science and like that kind of stuff, like someone who's Catholic, I think there's a lot of when it comes to Catholicism and science, a lot of people try to say science disproves Catholicism, and it's like, or is it one of the Thomas Aquinas' arguments for creating the universe, well, no, not Thomas Aquinas, William Lane Craig, his argument for the creation of the universe is that God did it because a completely random act is impossible. Random things don't exist. And scientists said within the last year, like, well, we got down to the quantum level and things are random. And it's like, are they random? Like, well, we're going to say they're random because we're not going to go any deeper.
Yes.
And it's like, you can't make it a definitive claim on science because you're still researching into it. But they did, and now they're trying to write off all his work.
Yep.
And so I think there's something there postmodernists for Christians to kind of, when it comes to science, have a little postmodernism.
They still test the theory of gravity on a regular basis.
That is, what's one day they're going to do it and it's not going to work. It's going to be the funniest thing ever. Like, gravity's fake.
Yes. It's funny just in my simpleton mind thinking, why do you have to test it? Doesn't the fact that you walked to the place to do the test show you that it's real? But yeah, whatever.
They got to find some way to make money. They got to have some kind of budget.
Funded by some NGO. Yeah, I'm sure.
$5 million a month for testing gravity.
Yes, exactly.
Oh.
And you've got to be vaxxed.
Yep. It's like, what is it? The test is just like, my see the test is they just pour some cocaine on a table, and if it doesn't float up, it's real.
Yeah.
That's the only test.
It just wet my nose.
So, what books are you currently reading? Any interesting books, or are you kind of just busy with the whole podcast and the whole?
I am. I'm reading a few things. This is going to be a spoiler alert for someone who I've not announced yet that I'm having on my show. I've not even seen him pimp out the fact that he wrote this. In fact, I'm not going to show you who wrote it. It doesn't say on the front. But this is an ebook that I'm reading.
Common Sense, A Case for an Independent Texas.
Ooh. It doesn't have his name. Very famous. Everyone listening to this knows who he is, I guarantee you. And I'm reading a really cool book. Man, I can't remember the author's name. It's I have a little reading spot in the front room. Called, do you know who Solzhenitsyn is?
The name sounds familiar.
He was a Soviet. He was in a Soviet prison camp. He wrote the Gulag Archipelago.
Okay. Okay.
There's an author that took a lot of his speeches and writings throughout the years and put them in a book, a very right-wing author. And the book's called something like Solzhenitsyn from the Right, or Viewing I'm going to say that word so many times I can't say it. Viewing Solzhenitsyn from the Right. So it's a right-wing author basically breaking down, here's this speech, here's what he meant by it. It's really good, a very easy read. And so it's helping me, when these guys write these books that are 1,000 pages, like Solzhenitsyn did, it's like the Mises Reader you can get, and it breaks apart some of Mises's writings. So it's doing that from a right-wing perspective. It's really good.
Nice.
And I've been reading, I got that new book that they put together of Hoppe's essays. I'm still going through that as well. And then someone just told me to get this.
How the West won an elected story of triumph of modernity.
Yeah, I don't know if I would agree with it or not, but someone I respect said, get this. So that's up next, I suppose. Oh, you know what? I got Patrick Newman from the Mises Institute. I'm going to have him on. So I have a copy of his new book.
Cronyism?
On cronyism.
I have the pre-order. I'm just waiting for it to come in the mail because he's also agreed to come on. And so I'm just waiting to get... I want to read it because I really enjoyed the progressive ale, and I really want to talk to him and read the book, but I'm still waiting for the pre-order to come in.
Yeah, it's so far so good, and I keep reading a lot of different stuff. I just finished reading Out of Control: Apocalyptic Psychology in the Age of Trump, and the author of that book is on my episode that just dropped today. So I'm finished with that, and I don't see any more over there that I got to hit right off the bat. But yeah, those are the ones right now. Solzhenitsyn from the Right. Really cool.
Nice. So you've been called and considered one of the better, or if not the best interviewer when it comes to podcasting. How do you go about writing your questions? Like, do you just go in for a conversation, or do you kind of write questions out in advance? Like, what's your strategy for conducting a good podcast?
That's a good question. I first do an outline in sloppy, just writing with my pen on a paper. And then I'll type up generally a question, but I don't read from it like it's a script, if that makes sense. And I type it in big writing. I probably got some I could show. I type it in big writing so I can see it, basically. Like that's the last interview I did yesterday with James Corbett of the Corbett Report. And so I write notes as I go, as they say things that make me think of something else that I had not jotted down. So it's just kind of organic and comes as the guy speaking, or guy or girl speaks with me. But at the same time, I'll have notes generally where in case the guy just kind of pauses or, fizzles out, I know immediately I can go somewhere with it.
Nice. I do a similar saying. Normally it's just, I write a few prompts for a saying and I hope to God it prompts a conversation and he doesn't just like end it.
Yeah, I like guys that go on and on. I mean, obviously Scott's like the extreme version of that. Scott Horton is, but it is nice to be able to it's like a good wine. You're letting it breathe. Like let the guest, do their thing and talk about it. And but when I go on other shows like this, I think, hope I'm not talking too much. And then, people come on mine, I want them to talk more.
I had Scott Horton on for a Star Wars episode a while ago, and he would just go off and on, and it was amazing. It was great. And I'm sitting there listening, and he paused, and I'm like, what's he paused for? I didn't pause the episode. I'm like, oh, I'm in the episode. I have to say something now. Like, I completely forgot I was like
you're
recording an episode.
Man, sure, yeah.
It was.
Did he know a lot of stuff even about that too?
Yes.
God dang.
He knows a lot about everything, it feels like. Like he talks like such an everyday guy, and you talk to him like deep about things. You're like, oh, you're ridiculously smart too.
Yes, I the last time we spoke on for a show, right before we started, I said, so just here's what I wanted to talk to you about, and I started to say it. He goes, you don't have to prep me. Oh, okay, true. I guess I don't. So, and it's funny because you get some guests that are like, "Tell me what we're talking about," and I had one guest that was like, "Please write the questions out and send them to me." And so, Scott is so against that kind of thing. It's
Mhm.
refreshing. It's nice that someone can just go on and on and on, and he
Yeah.
knows a lot, and he's not just bullshitting.
It's impressive. Like I try to stay up to date on the Scott Horn podcast episodes, but I'm so foreign affairs and anti-war stuff is so outside of my element.
Okay.
I feel like it's so many things I don't know that I'm never gonna memorize the names. That
Yes.
I just leave it to the people who are really good at it, and I kind of stay out of that whole space.
Yeah.
I know it like the time I would spend to get really good at it is not the time I want to spend. I can spend on other things, and so I'm one of the other people who are like Scott or Ace from Twitter who are great at it. Just
Hmm.
make that the focus. So let's you've had on a lot of interesting people. You've had on Pete, you've had on Andrew from Popular Liberty, you've had on Matt, Adam Patrick.
Those are all my friends.
Oh, they're great people. I mean, every time one of them puts out a podcast, I'm like, let's listen to this one.
Hmm.
What is your opinion of Andrew's alcotropism and anti-tax? Because a lot of people are either really fans of it or they really hate it.
Who really hates it?
Anyone who lives in Capitan ahead.
I mean, I knew some people were against some of the things Andrew says, but I didn't know that they were against those things in particular. Well, obviously, I'm a fan of both of those things. It's funny, archetropism took me maybe 3 different times of hearing him explain it to really sink in. And I think my brain just works that way with stuff that's so I don't even know what you would call it, not analytical, but maybe just so different, out of the ordinary, I suppose. It took me the same thing with Curtis Yarvin when I was listening to him or reading him. It took me a few times through because it's so different from what you're used to hearing, maybe. And so, yeah, I love Andrew's stuff. It's brilliant in its own unique way, I would say.
Yeah, I've had him on the pod. My longest podcast was Andrew. We went for 2.5 hours.
My God.
Yeah, I didn't. I don't know. I think someone planned it like that. I DM'd him like, "Hey, how long can he go for?" He's like, "I don't know, probably 2 hours." I'm like, okay, I'll sort my questions down because I had so many things I wanted to ask him because we're both Catholic, we're both paleos, and so anti-tax, and there's so many avenues for conversations. And like Scott, he can just go off on tangents.
Yes.
And you never want to interrupt the tangent because it's so interesting.
Yes.
And so he just go off, and I'm like, okay, let me write down. Like I had like 3 pages of notes just from interviewing him. Just like after the interview, I'm like, okay, I got this up, I got this up.
Okay, yeah.
He kept bringing up things. I'm like, I gotta Google that one. It was great.
One of the things that's cool about what his plans is that it's not just talk and fluff and based on just spreading messages and things like that, which those things can be fine. It's putting words actually into action to have realistically achievable goals. And so I appreciate that about it.
Yeah. Like you said, that is one thing I do like about when I listen to his podcast, I talk to him. It's like, I don't like, much as I love listening to Dave Smith or other like those kind of people, I do walk away feeling like, well, all I'm like, the call to action at the end of it is just go get on Twitter and argue with people more, which is fun. I do that a lot. With Andrew, it's like, I don't need the call to action is we're gonna win.
Yeah, I don't think Dave's call to action is to argue with people more on Twitter. I think it's a more positive message than that. Although some of his serious, I'm not trying to use this as a derogatory term, but like fanboys, that is what they seem to want to do.
Well, my thing was my problem with the Mises Caucus. It's just a lot of people in there that how do I put this? They're not doing anything more than just posting on Twitter. Yeah. But they act like they're fully involved in the movement.
Yeah, I mean, and even if you are fully involved in the Libertarian Party movement, it's still largely irrelevant. Yeah. So, I mean, like Matt's analogy of being king of the sandbox at a giant playground is perfect. I mean, because that's what that is. I did it for a long, long time. And in 2016, when I was going to try to represent Hornberger and be a delegate, I went back to this Austin, Travis County LP meeting, and lo and behold, it's the same people, just 10 to 15 years older than when I first went, still in the same little club, still having done absolutely nothing.
Yeah. I came to the Liberty Movement from Joe Jorgensen, and so I never really know. I don't know the LP situations or workings too well.
It's not good.
Like,
stay away.
I can. If they produce Joe Jorgensen, I can imagine it's not very good.
Yeah, and we talked about the independent spirit and streak here in Texas. The Texas LP is among the worst in the entire country. It's so crazy. It's so blue pill cringe leftist. It's nuts.
Even the Mises Caucus of Texas,
not
on Twitter, doesn't seem. Yeah. Now the Florida Mises Caucus, I followed them on Facebook and Twitter. I'm in the group. They're cool.
Okay.
They're cool. They were like, they straight up said, yeah, when, like I don't know, there's a whole debate on Twitter a while ago, but like, should libertarians want someone against DeSantis? And a lot of Mises Caucus people are like, yeah, you gotta want someone against DeSantis to like pull from the left. Like that's gonna happen. And the Mises Caucus of Florida was like, we're not fucking doing that. That's stupid.
Good. Okay. That's good to know.
It was weird. Like the Florida Mises Caucus was like, yeah, this is dumb. We're not doing it. And the Mises Caucus on Twitter was like, no, you should do it. You should want this guy because he can pull from the left. And it's like when you have the people on the ground in the area saying it's stupid and you're in another state, you shouldn't be commenting on that.
Right. There's a lot of people in other states that they don't understand the seriousness that in the way that DeSantis has impacted people's lives in Florida. Mm-hmm. They just kind of write it off like, oh, well, yeah, I'm sure he's okay on that. It's like, no. You are in a state and you're okay with being locked down and having places that make you get a vaccine. Not everyone lives that shit life. And so it's like this, they can't see it from the eyes of someone in Florida. It's crazy. And I've noticed that a lot. And Tho even said, well, I won't get into that. I don't want to say anything that he said offline to me, but yeah, I see that a lot. So
yeah, that was kind of one of the prompts for the episode. Was the podcast was noticing that the people from Florida and Texas, they never like people who don't live in Florida and Texas probably have never had a good governor, and so they don't have anything to compare it to.
Correct.
Why, I've had a good governor. I know a governor who's like DeSantis, who's not great. You know, like when it comes to police and that kind of stuff, he's not great. But when it comes to COVID, I don't know anybody else. He is the best there is on COVID.
Yes.
And right now, the only thing that matters right now.
Because of my governor, what I would generally call a lukewarm, milquetoast conservative, I still have a job. So it's pretty nice.
Yeah. Yeah, it's... It honestly, it bugs me a little bit. I have a lot of friends in other states, and it gets kind of frustrating when how do I put this? Okay, Jacob, if you're listening, I'm not putting you down. I think you're doing great work in Pennsylvania. But you don't understand what Florida politics is like. And when you try to speak on other states without being on the ground in the area, you don't know what you're talking about. And your ideas of what would work good in your state do not carry over to every other state.
Interesting. Who did you say that about?
I have a friend, Jacob Wingrad, of the biblical Daniel 3 Biblical Anarchy. He works in the Mises Caucus in his state, and it works good in his state because there's no word GOP presence in his state. So it makes sense to kind of go Mises Caucus. There's no presence of the GOP is nothing. There's no DNC. It's just like politically ambiguous. So that makes sense to go Mises Caucus there. In Florida, that'd be ridiculously a waste of time.
Yeah, I mean, if you say politically ambiguous, that means it's run by the left, basically. There is no politically ambiguous place that's right wing.
Yeah, it's kind of true. That is true. I don't know, the way he explained Pennsylvania is kind of like they're not really into politics, you know? And so they kind of have a indifference to it, but it's just room for the left to take over.
Yes, exactly. They're so steeped in Democratic Party politics that they can't even see anything outside of it.
Yeah, that is one thing. I was reading Socialism by Mises today, and he made this point that
that's a thick one.
I am loving it. I'm doing an entire month of Mises book club episodes, and I am trying to get through all Mises books. And he made a point that even like the best people against socialists, like the people who were praised at his time, who were praised as being defenders against socialism, were all arguing for policies that simply got socialism slower.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's like there's no real. There was really no one who went after socialism. So it's like, oh, we're against socialism. And he's not a socialist. He doesn't want socialism immediately. He wants it in 5 years. So he's not a socialist.
Yes. The middle of the road leads to socialism.
I read that the other day, and it is probably my favorite Mises thing. Like my favorite was Marxism Unmasked. Or maybe Life and Liberty and Property. But I read that one. I'm like, that was pretty good. Like I love reading Rothbard. I love reading Hopper, but Mises is my favorite one. Like that is the guy to read. I can't get enough reading Mises.
Tho would love hearing that.
I want to get So on for one of Mises' books, but I'm not sure what's one. I'm trying to figure out what's a good one for him. But
just ask him.
I think I will DM him because I got tomorrow. I get my last batch tomorrow. By tomorrow night, we'll have every single Mises writing in physical copy. I think I might be missing 2, but that's only because I can't find them.
Which ones?
I think I'm missing Omnipotent Government.
Okay.
And I think the other one was Anti-Capitalist Mentality.
Oh,
those are the ones I need to pick up. But I'm waiting to. I think those are 2 I need to pick up. No, and no, I have Anti-Capitalist Mentality. It's Bureaucracy I need. That one on Amazon I went to buy, but it was sold out, and so I might go to the Mises Institute and just buy it from there.
Okay, cool.
Now I'll complete my Mises set.
Institute? Have you been there?
No, I have not.
Oh, it's amazing. Also, there's an event coming up next weekend in Florida they're putting on.
I saw that, and I'm trying to do the host student scholarship thing to see if I can go to it.
Okay, nice.
My college right now screwed me over. I was trying to do all my classes and stay active and try to get my AA in a year and a half. And I dropped the class, and the computer system rejected my drop, so they put me down as a failed withdrawal. And I went to complain about it, and they said, oh, the computer system will catch up to you before it's time to sign up for more classes. It didn't. Dropped my GPA, put me on academic probation, and I lost all my student loans.
Oh, no. Jeez.
Yeah. Well, mainly, and then after that whole situation, the college doesn't like me because I was taking a quiz that was honor locked, and I didn't know it was honor locked. Was on. And so I made a joke. I have a joke about school is that if teachers and school officials were so scared of schools getting shot up, you think they'd be nice to the students.
Yeah, right.
And apparently the honor lock heard that, and they contacted the police.
Oh, wow.
And so I had a sheriff deputy trying to find me all over the place. He called me on the phone, trying to get a hold of me. I had to do and he talked to me for like an hour. Like, listen, I know they suck, but you can't swear to suit them up.
Oh, okay.
And so the school were happy with me. And so I took a break. I took a little semester off, kind of let things calm down a bit before I go back.
Yeah, probably wise.
Yeah. But January, I'm quitting my job and going full-time in school in January. And so that's going to be exciting. I'm excited to do full-time school, full-time podcasting. It's going to be great.
Good.
We are running up on an hour. I have one more question I wanted to ask you because I try to ask every guest this question. This is the Catholic Libertarian. So, what is your religious kind of history? Were you raised religious? Are you non-religious? What is your I wanted to talk about it? What is your religious history?
I was raised hardcore, kind of, the Bible thumper Christian preachers. That's how I was raised with that going on. In fact, he's very famous. His name is John Hagee. He's in San Antonio. Yeah, he's a fire and brimstone guy. And then I got out of it, and when I was kind of a blue-pilled libertarian, I would say I was agnostic, probably, or atheist. And now I'm kind of headed away from agnostic and atheist, and I'm not sure where I'm at this point in time, but it's a bit of a journey, so we'll see.
Nice. Well, Catholicism is a great option. I have to pitch that whenever someone says they're agnostic.
Well, check this out. You're aware that Orthodox Christianity is all the rage right now with some people in our corners. Interesting that in all of this little Central Texas area that I'm in near Austin, the Orthodox church is in my town that I live in now, Lockhart, this small country town, the only one. So I was like, I don't know if that's a sign, but maybe I'll be checking it out at some point.
I can't recommend it enough. Going to a pre-Reformation church service is one of the most beautiful experiences you can do.
Okay.
They are. I was raised Pentecostal, so I was raised with the people running around, flapping their arms, trying to fly into the sky during worship service. Yes. And then I went to a Catholic service, and it was so reverent and quiet, and just it was amazing. I can't describe how much I loved it.
Nice. You know, at the place I went when I was younger, there was tongues speaking fairly often. It was interesting. I guess they don't have that at the Orthodox place, but
the Orthodox, I have my issues. I have my problems with the Orthodox because I'm Catholic. I think they're wrong on the Filioque way and a few other like theological debates. But overall, I have no hatred. I love the Orthodox. Like so like the Catholic Church is very Aristotelian and Aristotle, but the Orthodox is so Platonist and Plato-like. And much as I read Aristotle and agree with Aristotle, I love reading Plato a little bit more than Aristotle. And so I kind of fall into that category. Sadly, we are running out of time. I'll have to get you on again to talk more because this was a lot of fun. Before we go, what books would you recommend to people? If you could recommend any 3 books, what book would you recommend?
That is a good question. I know it's trendy, and I know those people that refer to us, as a pejorative post-libertarians. I would have to say The Machiavellians by James Burnham. Very important.
Fantastic book.
I would, geez, this is off the top of my head. Why not? Against the Left by Lew Rockwell.
I just finished that the other day. That is a fantastic book.
Yes, it is. This is just a random, throwing stuff out there. Let's see. I would also say then Democracy, the God That Failed by Hoppe. I would one more, Reclaiming the American Right.
That is the only one of those lists I haven't read, and I would need to read those.
That's a good one. Hold on, there's a Rothbard one that's almost the same thing. Betrayal of the American Right. That's just a similar thing. So by Rothbard, that's a good one. And one more. The Irrepressible Rothbard. It's a collection of his works from the 90s. Very, very important and very good.
So every book you listed, I have read, and all but the last one I've done a podcast. I have a podcast on, or I will be doing a podcast on by the end of the month. So
excellent.
If you was listening, Machiavellians was with Matt Erickson. Against the Left, we was Project Strat from Twitter. Democracy God That Failed was
Stratty. Good.
Democracy God That Failed will be done was done with Jared from End Democracy, and Betrayal of the American Right was done with So Bishop. And so if you guys, anyone listening wants to read those books and check out the podcast, I would appreciate it.
That is badass. All right, and The South Was Right by the Kennedy Brothers. Check that out.
The South is Right. Yes, I have one of the questions the British guy, the Irish guys, going to ask me at the end of the podcast is, what are some kick-ass Southern country songs? And I'm going to tell them the South. Well, what would happen if the South would have won by
Hank Jr.
Yes, I always forget his name.
Well, there's Hank Jr. saying if the South would have won, we'd have it made. But yeah, it's a good one.
Well, Buck, where can people find you at?
At Buck Rebel on Twitter, BuckRebel. You can find any of the stuff you need at counterflowpodcast.com. It's got all of the links to all of the episodes, the Patreon stuff, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all of that stuff. Counterflowpodcast.com.
Got it. Okay, another episode of the Catholic Libertarian Podcast. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, and read more books.